I heard this noise, and when I looked up, that's when Loretta fell. And so I turned around. When I seen her fall, I turned around and I started running the other direction. And I heard the noise again. And I thought that Jerry was, I thought the second gunshot was meant for me. So I started taking off running even faster. And the reason I took off running as fast as I did is because I had it in my mind, if I can get to the truck and get in there and take off before Jerry catches up to me, I'm leaving. I'm leaving him in that field. I didn't know if Dad was there or not. I didn't care at that point.
I wouldn't blame you if you thought you were listening to a victim impact statement, but on the contrary, you were listening to the statement of a woman who was sentenced to 47 years for her involvement in a double homicide. Yet somehow she is up for parole after serving just 7 years of that sentence. We are going to unpack it with all of the details at the end, and I would ask you to check out her tissue box and see how many times she grabs for it. Now, with that, let's jump in.
Also, I'd like to explain the process here. First of all, I'll ask you to describe the crime in detail, what was going on that time in your life. After that, myself and my colleagues might have a few questions for you. When we're finished at that time, we'll go into deliberation. When we go into deliberation, you'll be able to hear us but not participate. And I'll come back to you and explain what our decision was. Does that make sense? We also have a victim that would like to make a statement. Actually, we have a few. So I'm going to give this to our victim liaison, Heather Artist, at this time. So this one, you sit back and listen, okay? Thank you.
First, I'm going to share a statement on behalf of Bob Post, which is Loretta's brother. We never got to say goodbye. My sister Loretta was stolen from my family. She was 36 years old. Loretta wasn't the only victim. There was another in this murder. Loretta is no longer breathing, but she leaves behind children, grandchildren, a mother, father, brothers, and sister. We were a close family. She also had sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. All have been impacted by the callous decision of one person. My sister was not perfect. She was human. She made mistakes, as we all do, but she never harmed anyone. She was kind, very generous, funny, and thoughtful. The last time I saw my sister was at our mother's visitation a year before her murder. We hadn't spoken in a few years due to some differences we had. I remember that we hugged and talked for a bit. I did not know it would be the last time I saw her alive. Worrying about my sister's children and what this has done to them, the stress that we all have experienced has impacted us all. Accepting that Loretta will never stop over and visit or will not have dinner with our family is hard. It was her favorite. There were so many things she will miss. She would have found at least 40 more years of birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, births, and everyday occasions to make memories. I'm not sure if our worst days are over. My sister was stolen from us, and hours, days, weeks, months, and years have been stolen away from our family. Her children are without a mother, and her grandchildren will never get to know her and enjoy how she would spoil them. My sister will not be forgotten because she gave us so much to remember. Jennifer Hartley is just as guilty as Jerry Dillinger. She had a choice to involve herself. She does not deserve parole. And then we also have statements from a few others. We'll have Charlotte share next. Charlotte, we're going to ask you to accept being promoted to a panelist. Once you've accepted that, you can choose to leave your camera off or turn it on when you share your statement. So when you're ready, if you will unmute You can go ahead and share your statement. Were you able to hear me, Charlotte? Can you unmute, please?
Okay, how's that? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. And you can choose to leave your camera off or turn it on. So go ahead when you're ready.
I'd like to thank you guys for letting me have a voice in this matter, because Michael Robinson was my son. This woman took a son, a brother, a father, and she had her hands in it taking a mother. Losing my son is a pain that I will have forever. She didn't have no regard for their lives, showed no remorse for what she did. She knows the difference between right and wrong, and she chose not to prevent this tragedy from happening. And I feel like she's a danger to society. I almost committed because I'm still in so much pain that my son is not here. I look at her as she's just as guilty as Jerry was. And sorry, I'll never be able to tell my son that I love him anymore. Loretta's kids can't have their mother to check them in at night, or even tell her that they love her. All I can say is, please don't let her out. I'm afraid she will kill again. I miss my baby so bad. And I'm just begging you guys, please don't let her out, because I don't want another family to have to deal with the pain that I endure every day. Since then, I have been having nightmares of seeing my son on a burning pile. And he's looking at me like, help me, Mom. I try to go save him, and I can't. Something stops me. And at nighttime, I cry myself to sleep a lot still. When she got her sentencing, she couldn't even look at the families. She has never apologized. Not that it would make a difference, but still, she had her hands in and taken two people's life for no good reason. And I don't think she deserves to get out. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Charlotte. We're going to now switch you back to attendee. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, we are going to ask for Natasha. We're going to promote you and ask you to accept to be promoted to panelist so that you can share your statement. Once you've accepted it, you can choose to turn your camera on or leave it off. And so when you're ready, go ahead and unmute and you can share your statement.
I want to start this off by saying thank you for letting me speak today. I don't really know where to begin. My mom was a very, very loved person by many people. She never, ever, ever, ever intended to harm anybody. I was not 10 when my mom was murdered. Never got to live a life knowing my mom, never got to grow up seeing my mom. And I'm about to have one of her grandchildren that she'll never meet. They'll never meet her. They'll never know how great of a person she was, how loved she was. And the only time I can't hug her, I can't kiss her, I can go to her grave. I don't feel like Jennifer should even have a choice to be out in the world, starting a new life. finishing her life when my mom never got the chance to do the same. Jennifer knew what she was doing. She knew what my mom would be leaving behind. And I don't feel like it's fair that she gets to see her children and talk to her grandchildren, and my mom will never get the chance. Ever. Her death impacted me a lot, and it still does to this day. I wake up and I have to try to be a normal person, go out into society, talk to people, and act like nothing ever happened. And it's hard. It's altered my mental state tremendously. It took me a long time to even get somewhere remotely close to being somewhat of a normal human being. I always dream and I look and I wait for a life that's never, ever, ever going to be possible again. I wanted to know my mom. I wanted to be able to turn to my mom when I needed somebody, and I can't do that ever again. I don't think that she should be granted parole, and I beg of you, please do not grant her parole. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Natasha. Natasha, are you there by yourself, or do you have Justin and Lawrence there with you?
I'm here by myself.
Okay, perfect. We're gonna have you go back, let's promote you back to an attendee. And then, Justin, if you could raise your hand and let us know which number you are or which person over here. I'm sorry, we can't promote you because I don't know which one you are. Oh, perfect, thank you. So once you've accepted that, you can leave your camera on or off, sorry, or turn it on, and you can unmute and share your statement when you're ready.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
Justin. Thank you for listening to my statement.
Thank you,
Can you hear
Justin.
me?
Go ahead and share when you're ready.
I hope that you guys do not grant her parole because she took part in tearing apart our family. She took something away from us that meant the world to us. We didn't really get a chance to know her when we were growing up, like my sister said. But that didn't change the fact that we still wish to see her, and that chance is taken away. I still to this day have dreams that I would see her. And I just want to be able to ask her questions and talk to her. That's impossible now. She knew what she was taking part in. And if she was able to get talked into helping murder my mom and that guy, who's to say that that won't happen again? Who's to say that she won't fall on the same path that put her where she's at now? So at this time, I asked the parole board to please deny her parole. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Justin. We're going to promote you back to an attendee. Thank you for sharing that statement. And now our last statement is from Lawrence. And we'll need Lawrence to do the same. If you could raise your hand so we know which phone number that you are over here to promote you. Sorry. Lawrence, could you, if you, I don't know, if could you raise your hand so we know which number you are so you can share your statement? Okay. Lawrence, will send an email to Natasha, and we'll see if we can connect and come back so that you can still share your statement before this interview is over. So I'm just going to turn it back over for a moment to the board, and guys, I will do my best. I'll see if I can get a hold of them. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go on, first I'd like to say thank you to Charlotte and Natasha and Justin for your statements. The board appreciates your statements that you made. So I'm not coming back to you, Ms. Hartley. Could you please tell me in detail, but briefly, what was going on in your life the day of the crime, and what was happening on that day that this all happened?
Back in 2013, I had sent a message on Facebook. I sent a friend request message on Facebook to my half brother, who was Jerry Dillinger. Him and I never grew up together. We had the same dad, different moms. So like I said, him and I never grew up together. We didn't know each other. Jerry had been in and out of trouble for years. So I just left him alone. And when I finally did send him the friend request, I thought, well, we're both adults. We are siblings. Let's try to get to know each other. So from 2013 until 2014, we started to get to know each other. He had, in 2014, he had bought a house in Thayer. Him and Loretta were together at the time. Jerry had had a house fire in 2014. Before he had had the house fire, my husband and I also bought a house in Thayer. And after Jerry's house fire, my husband and I decided we would just let Jerry and Loretta stay at the house that we bought so they wouldn't be homeless. They came and stayed with us. And things were okay for the most part. But Jerry was abusive and not a very nice person. And the summer of 2015, my husband was at work, and I had gotten a phone call or a text message from my husband that our house in Greenfield, because my husband and I also had a house in Greenfield, had caught on fire. So that day I told Jerry, I need to go up to Greenfield because our house was caught on fire. And he told me, he's like, you're not gonna go up there by yourself. I'm gonna go with you. And I said, well, let's go then, because I'm going. I'm not sitting around, I'm not waiting. And he's like, well, you need to take your pistol up there with you. And I said, well, what do I need to take a pistol for? I had a house fire. I don't need to worry about taking a gun with me anywhere. And he's like, well, you don't know who's all up there, why the house caught on fire, how it happened. You just don't know anything. And I'm like, and then I got to arguing about it. And I start walking out the door. I get grabbed by the arm. He follows me. He grabs me by the arm. And he's like, I want you to take your pistol up there with you because you don't know what's going on up there. And I was like, I'm not arguing with you no more about it. Let's go. So I went and I got my pistol. Before we walked out the door, Loretta was at the house. And one of Jerry's coworkers was also there. Her name was Darlene. Jerry had said Loretta was taking Darlene to work that day while him and I went up to Greenfield. And I said, all right. So I get in the truck and the passenger side, put my pistol in the console. Jerry gets in the driver's side. We drive up to Greenfield. I get out of the truck. I start walking around the house in Greenfield, surveilling the damage and everything. We were up there for maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And I had gotten a phone call from my mother, who had said she heard over the police scanner that the address to the house in Thayer was on fire. I looked at Jerry and I said that the house in Thayer is on fire. He's like, well, let's go. So we get back in the truck to head to Thayer. As we're heading to Thayer, there's a little rest area. And he pulls in there, and that's where Loretta and Darlene were parked in the car. And I kind of look at him and I'm like, well, what are they doing here? And why are we meeting up with them when they were supposed to be in Des Moines? I was told to keep my mouth shut and not to worry about what was going on. He proceeds to get out. I stay in the truck. He gets out. He goes and talks to them. And then we leave the rest area and we go down a different road. And I'm like, well, I thought we need to go to Thayer because we not only I had a house fire, now the house fire or the house in Thayer's on fire. We need to get back there. We don't need to go down this road wherever we're going. I'm arguing with him the whole time, saying some very foul language to him that I will not repeat. And I said, what in the world is going on? Why are we going down this road? And I had been told several times, keep your mouth shut, don't worry about it, you don't need to worry about what's going on. And I am screaming and yelling at him at this time. We need to get back to Thayer. I don't know how many times I have to repeat myself. We need to get back there to see what in the world is going on. And he again tells me, keep your mouth shut, don't worry about anything. You don't worry about nothing. We stop along this gravel road. Darlene and Loretta are behind us in the car. And I'm like, what are we doing stopped along this gravel road? We need to get back to Thayer. He gets out of the truck to go back and talk to Darlene and Loretta. Darlene and Loretta get in the truck with us. And I'm like, okay, we're going back to Thayer now. Nope, we're gonna go meet Dad. By this time, I am very, very angry, saying a whole lot of foul language to him. And he's like, I said, what does Dad have to do with this? And he's like, we're just gonna go meet Dad. That's all you need to know. We're gonna go meet Dad. I'm like, my car's left along this gravel road. I don't know where we're at. And I'm like, and now Darlene and Loretta are joining us. Let's just get back there. No, we got to go meet Dad first. So we're going down another gravel road and we pull into this farm entrance. And I said, what are we doing here? Well, Dad's working here, so we're going to go meet Dad. Because he put tile like in a pasture for farmers is what Dad did for a living. I was like, all right. I get out of the truck before any of them did. Slammed the truck door very hard. I'm surprised I didn't break the window. And there was a red panel, gate panel. And before anybody else had gotten out of the truck, I had climbed over that. And I was like, just started walking. I heard 2 more truck doors shut. And when I turned around and looked, Jerry and Loretta were behind me. And I looked at Jerry and I said, well, where's Dad? And he goes, well, he's over this way. So once we get across the red panel gate, then we had to cross this fence. So I crossed the fence. They both crossed it. And I said, I don't see anything anywhere. And he's like, well, Dad's straight ahead. So I started walking. And Loretta was behind me. And Jerry was behind both of us. And I kept walking straight ahead. And Loretta was standing right beside me. Her and I were walking side by side, and Jerry was still behind us. And I heard this noise. And when I looked up, that's when Loretta fell. And so I turned around. When I seen her fall, I turned around and I started running the other direction. And I heard the noise again. And I thought that Jerry was, I thought the second gunshot was meant for me. So I started taking off running even faster. And the reason I took off running as fast as I did is because I had it in my mind, if I can get to the truck and get in there and take off before Jerry catches up to me, I'm leaving. I'm leaving him in that field. I didn't know if Dad was there or not. I didn't care at that point. But he caught up to me before I could get back to the truck. And he told me, he grabbed me by the arm and put the pistol in my face and told me that if I said anything to anybody, he would kill me. But before he killed me, he would kill my family, make me watch, and then he would kill me. And I told him, I said, I won't say anything. So we get back in the truck. I get in the truck first. And he opens the back door. And I didn't turn around. I kind of glanced, but I didn't want to look. Because his friend Darlene was sitting in the back seat. And I assumed he was saying something to her. So anyway, he shut the back door and then he got in the front. And that's when I realized that he had my pistol. And again, he puts it in my face and he said, you think I can't get things done behind bars? He's like, if you say anything, I will make sure that you die. And he said, you think I can't get things done behind bars? He said, I've had it done before. And my hands were washed clean because I was behind bars. I never got charged with anything. And I said, I won't say nothing. And I never did say anything until after he was arrested for the 2 counts of first-degree murder the 2 counts of murder that he was arrested for. And that's when I told the DCI agents everything that I knew. But after we left that pasture area that we were at, we finally made it back to Thayer. where the house fire was. And there was like 2 or 3 fire trucks there, and there was a cop there. And as soon as I got out of the truck, I couldn't get out of Jerry's sight at all, because everywhere I was, he was there. I would go sit beside my husband, he would come over there and just stand. Even though there was a cop there, and I should have said something that day, I didn't. Because out of fear for my own life and my family's life, that I just kept quiet. Like I said, until after Jerry was arrested. And then I had, like I said, I came clean with the DCI agents, and I told them everything from starting of the house fire that Jerry had back in 2014 until the day that Loretta had passed away.
Thank you. So who started the fire on Thayer?
Darlene. The very first house fire that Jerry had
Right.
was Darlene.
And who started the house fire at your place?
I had, the one in Greenville, I had found out that it was Loretta. And Jerry had told me, Jerry and Darlene both had told me that she had also started the one in Thayer. Because when Jerry had first house fire, he had collected a bunch of insurance money, and that was his whole intention of having the second house fire, is so he could collect a whole lot of money again from the insurance company.
How would he collect money from your house? It wasn't his home.
No, my home, we didn't get no insurance.
Okay, okay. I'm
That-
sorry, misunderstood that. So was there any drugs or alcohol involved in your life at that time?
Not in mine, no. I've never done drugs, or I'm not an alcoholic or anything, no.
And you did say that Jerry was a felon, correct? And so why would you allow him around a gun, knowing that a felon can't be around a gun?
That's where my husband and I both had our carrying permits, and Jerry had told me, because he knew that my husband is a hunter, and we had gun, or my husband has guns and everything. And Jerry said that he had, one of the times he had gotten out of prison, that as long as those guns are like in a safe where he doesn't have a key or have access to them, then they could be at the house. And I was like, okay. And if I would have stayed, and this is what I deal with every day of my life, if I would have stood there and argued with him more about taking my pistol up to when we left that day to go up to Greenfield, I feel like maybe Loretta would have had a little bit longer life than what she did. Even though he threatened her all the time when he got mad at her, he threatened her, I don't know how many times. I'll kill you, and I'll burn the house, and I'll leave you in the house. And he was just a very evil person.
So did you personally hear those threats?
Yeah,
And he was in your home?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you try to remove him from that area if that's what you were hearing at the time?
what's that?
Why wouldn't you have him removed from your home if those are the kind of threats you were hearing?
Because him and Loretta would split up all the time, and then they would still get back together, and he would have ended up coming back there. But once he got all of his insurance money, that's when he bought some land for my husband and I, so we could have a double wide trailer. He also bought the double wide trailer, and we put that on the land as well, and our whole intention was for him and Loretta to live at the house in there, and my husband and I were gonna live up here in the double wide trailer, so I didn't have to be around him anymore. My husband had no idea what kind of person Jerry actually was, because Jerry was very good at being like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Had Jerry ever threatened you personally before this?
Oh, yes, absolutely. He got physical with me. I was raped by him twice. And I never said anything to anybody about any of this until he was sitting in jail on murder charges. Because I knew that with him being out, I would not be safe at all. And I told the DCI agents that. I said, if he by chance happens to get out of jail, I will be your next victim. And I said, and you will be lucky if you even find my body. Because he will probably beat me to death.
Ms. Hartley, I appreciate you answering the questions I did have. I'm gonna turn it over to my colleagues. My colleague Susie, why not, will ask you the questions if she has any.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Hartley. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you. I appreciate you asking. I'd like to start talking about what you've done while you've been incarcerated. I'd like to know, it looks like you volunteered for treatment, is that correct? Did you do some treatment?
Classes that you took. Oh, yes, I've taken classes, yes, sorry.
That's okay. Why don't you talk to us about the treatment that you've had, or the classes as you've called them?
I've taken several different classes throughout my stay at ICIW. One of the ones that made the biggest impact for me, it was called Healing Trauma. And it was only like a 5 or 6 week class. But it was the hardest class for me to take. Because it teaches you in there, you don't have to do like a fight or flight. You can ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. I was always believed that if you did ask for help, you were a weak person. But through this class, you learn that you're weak if you don't ask for help. And when I first started taking the class, I was like, well, there's things I'm dealing with, but I can be tough and deal with this on my own, and I couldn't. And that's when I started seeing Dr. Zinzer. And I seen her for, it was like 6 or 8 months, maybe close to a year. I can't really remember how long I had seen her, but I'd go up and talk to her on a weekly basis of the things that I was dealing with, the emotions that I had. It was very good therapy for me to talk to her.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. That looks like something that you took several years ago and it stuck with you, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you talk to us about your work with IPI?
I work in the imaging department at IPI. We deal with OSHA and DNR things. And there's different stations that we can work at like we do doc prep, we'll do scanning, I do final QC, but we just have to, like with doc prepping, you have to get all the paperwork ready to go through the scanner. So that means like you have to take out the staples. If there's papers that are ripped, you have to tape them. If there's little pieces of paper that need to go on a bigger sheet, you gotta tape them on there. Scanning, you just run them through a scanner, and it takes no time to do that job. And then the final QC, like I said, which I do, you have to go through it paper by paper and make sure the paper that's in front of you, it matches what's on the computer. If, like, when they scan it, if the paper rips, and then it comes to me on final QC and that shows up like there's a rip on the paper on the computer, I have to make it look presentable. So either I have to rescan it myself, or I have to crop it where it takes out the black part of the paper. And I've been doing that since October. And that's, if I'm granted my parole and I get out, I want to do some kind of clerical work like that. Secretary or some kind of work I want to do.
Okay, I'll get to that next. So why don't you talk to us? You said you do this for OSHA and DNR. What kind of documents do you handle?
There's, like, for like from different prisons, things that have happened to like a staff member, or there's, yeah, like accident incident reports from like inmates that have gotten hurt while they worked at we'll say Anamosa or Fort Madison. And there'll be horrific that we see, and we all had to sign a confidentiality form.
All right, thank you. I appreciate what you did share, and you did well in sharing what it was. So it looks like you were working with Iowa Workforce Development. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. It looks like that you have an interest in a particular job.
I do. I want to, like I said, I want to see about doing some kind of secretarial receptionist position. I like working on computers with computers, and that's what I want to see about doing, because I've always dreamed about, and it may sound weird, but I've always dreamed about being like a secretary somewhere. And I like that.
All right, thank you. Talk to us about your supports in the community. I'm seeing some things listed here. Can you tell us a little bit more information about your friends and your church?
I was attending a church. It was actually the church that my mom went to, that my husband and I and our daughter and our grandchildren were attending before ICIW. I want to get back to going to church again. And I go to church here on a weekly basis when the chaplain is here. And I have my husband and my mom and our daughter and my grandchildren. And my husband has been amazing throughout all of this. He comes up here and he sees me anytime that I need money on my account. He sends it in, or he does it over JPay. And he's, like I said, he's been a big support. He's been by my side through all of this.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. So who are your pro-social friends in the community?
To be honest with you, I don't have any, because I isolated myself after I had gotten out of jail. I isolated myself from people. I was like, the only people that I need are my family.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. I'd like to know about, it looks like you had a count, it looked like it was count 5 regarding fraudulent practice first degree. Can you talk to us specifically about that?
I pled guilty to that charge. I had filled out insurance papers for our house fire in Greenfield. I had filled out the insurance papers and faxed them to the insurance adjuster. And like I said, my husband and I, we never got no insurance money or anything out of that. But my attorneys told me, since I signed those papers, they can charge me with fraudulent first degree. So I said, okay, I'm guilty for signing that paper.
All right, thank you for answering my questions. That's what I have for right now.
Okay.
Thank you, Susie. Before I ask Renee to ask any questions, we do have one more victim that's on the line, I believe. Lawrence, is that who it is? Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Lawrence, we are going to promote you to panelist so that you can share your statement. Here, sorry. Once you've accepted that, you can unmute yourself and you can leave your camera on, or sorry, you can leave your camera off or turn it on. So when you're ready, go ahead and unmute and you can begin your statement. Hi.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, I'm basically working with a rotary phone over here, so you gotta bear with me. But, okay, so what is it you guys need from me exactly?
It was my understanding from Natasha that you wanted to share a statement during this interview. Is that correct?
I did, yeah, I guess kind of have an opinion on this. I feel like it should be heard before everybody takes this too far.
Okay, go ahead and share what you would. Go ahead, thank you.
I understand the dark places people get put in, and I want to be put on record for saying I do forgive Jennifer. I get it. We all go to bad spots, and sometimes our demons take over. And I do not want to hold that hatred in my heart because I don't want to give her that kind of power over me. So I honestly am completely for her being paroled. I really do think that she might have healed, but I know it's going to help me heal if I can get past it too, you know?
Is there anything else that you would like to share?
I just want everybody to remember that Mom wouldn't want to be holding this kind of hatred over anybody, so we shouldn't either, you guys.
Okay, thank you for sharing. We're going to promote you or ask you to go back to an attendee.
Okay, that's perfectly fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to say thank you to Lawrence for that statement. Renee, did you have any questions at this time?
I do. So Jennifer, talk to us about your reaction to the victim statements, the first set and that one.
I would just like to tell them all that I'm very sorry for all of this. And I hope someday that they find it in their heart to forgive me. Their mother did love them. I will tell them that she really did love them and she missed them so much. And she was a good person. She did not deserve to be shot and killed the way that she was. And I think the last individual, Mr. Lawrence, that he does find it in his heart to forgive me.
Thank you for that answer. So we started this conversation, it was kind of a long intro about the crimes that you've committed. In a very short statement, what do you understand now that you did wrong in everything that happened? What are you personally responsible for that happened in this series of events? What did you do wrong and what should you have done differently?
I got my pistol out and I should have never, ever done that to begin with. I should have stood there and argued with Jerry until he finally shut his mouth and quit arguing with me. And it's like I told my counselor the other day, I should have just left. I should have just said, you know what, if you think I need to take my pistol up to Greenfield with us, absolutely not. And I should have just left and went up to Greenfield by myself, not even took him with me. And the day that he shot and killed Loretta, I should have tried so much harder to get to the truck faster. So I could have just got in there and took off and left him there. And that is one thing that I live with every day is I wish I could turn back the clock and undo what's already been done. But I know that I can't.
The arson charge, is that because you were aware of people trying to set fires on houses for the insurance money? Is that why you got charged with that, because of your knowledge of those behaviors?
Yes, because when the house fire, the second house fire that Jerry had, he was like, I think I'll just have this house burned. He goes, what do you think? And I said, well, it's your house, do what you want. And I had told the DCI agents that I said that. And, you know, since I said what I did, they're like, well, the county attorney said, this is a arson charge, we're gonna charge you with that. And I said, well, I didn't partake in any of it, but because at first when I got arrested, I was looking at first degree murder. And I said, if I have to take a plea deal for this arson charge, I will do that compared to taking a first degree murder charge to trial.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that very much. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Renee. Is there any follow-up, Suzie?
I do, thank you.
Mhm.
Mrs. Hartley, I just want to go over these two questions that we'll typically ask. It looks like you've had some mental health counseling. What about any type of medications?
I've handled it. There for a little bit, I was taking some, it was for sleep, Benadryl.
Okay,
I had taken some Benadryl for sleep, but then it was causing me to have restless legs. So I quit taking it. And I said, I'll deal with one of these days, I'll get some sleep.
okay. How is your sleep?
It varies from night to night. There's the times I wake up having nightmares. Other times it's, get about 3 or 4 hours and just make the best of it.
Okay, so it continues to be a challenge for you.
Yes.
Thank you for being honest about that. While I'm looking at this, I don't see it here, but I want to ask the question about substances. What's your relationship with alcohol, if any?
Have any?
Okay, any other drugs?
No.
Thank you. I appreciate you answering my questions. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you. So at this time, if you prepared anything or would like the board to know anything, before we go into deliberation, you have the floor.
I just want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to have an interview. And I really am hoping that you grant me my parole.
Anything else you'd like to add?
And again, I would just like to say how sorry I am for all this that it happened.
I appreciate that. So at this time, we're going to go into deliberation with our decision. You'll be able to hear us, but you won't be able to participate at this time. Then I'll come back to you and explain our decision, okay? Thank you. Colleagues who would like to go first on this one?
I can. I'm gonna support the DOC's recommendation for parole to her husband. So that's a PGD3. And to be fair, the only thing I really see in here is the need for ongoing mental health. I would think a fresh evaluation would be good, and then following any recommendations that might be made. And I thought she did a good job today. She's done a lot of work on herself inside, done as many classes as she can take, has worked her way up the levels. She's working her out, doing all the things that she can do, volunteering, taking classes, remembering the classes that she's taught. And so I think it should be granted the parole today. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Susie?
Yep, I'm gonna agree with Renee in that assessment, PGD3, and I too am with about mental health is what I see in the 40A. Thank you.
Thank you. I too as well am in agreement with the DOC recommendation of paroling to her husband's house, same code as the D3, mental health being pursued as well. I think that this is really going to stick with me is Lawrence's statement. I want to thank all the people that spoke today, Charlotte, Natasha, Justin, Lawrence, for your time that you took during this fateful event as well. Ms. Hartley, I'm going to come back to you. You heard us deliberate. We are in agreement with the DOC recommendation of parole at this time. You will be paroling to your husband's house. We do ask that you check your mental health and get an evaluation to see where you're at right now. If you need help, take it. We wish you well, and we hope that you move forward with your life. And that will terminate this interview at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
This board is nuts. The more that we watch the Iowa board, the more enraged I become. They are incompetent. They make the Connecticut Board of Paroles look like next level. This is insane. She literally walks around. She makes herself the victim. They don't hold her accountable for anything. She drags the victims through the mud. Now, you might be confused about what happened because I as sure was confused. I had to listen to this over 4 times. Plus, I had the information which Richard provided, and I'm reading it and I'm listening to it and I'm saying, what is going on here? And I'll unpack it in a nutshell, and then we'll go into the different details, including what the judge said to her when she was sentenced, which aligns to everything that I am feeling right now. Yet this parole board is clueless. What happened was, and you know, they asked her to explain the story, and she goes off on she goes off on, I guess if you were to look up what gaslighting was, you can put that statement that she made, it would show right up next to it on Wikipedia, on Google, because that's what she did, and the board fell for it hook, line, and sinker. So she says that, well, I got a message from my half-brother on Facebook. I didn't know what the big deal was, so I connected with him. Then his home burnt down. So, hey, he moved into our home. What's the big deal? Everything was going great. Then there was a fire. And he said to me that we should go check it out. But I have to bring my gun because, gosh, you never know. So I fought with him. Why would I bring my gun? It's a fire. Who would have thought to call 911, right? But I listened. So then they go to check out this home in the car with him. When they're there, she gets a call from her mother, who's listening on the police scanner, that another one of their homes is on fire. So they go to check that out. Then they see the victims who they pick up in the car. And then at that point, he takes her gun and kills both the victims. And meanwhile, in her story, it's like, I don't know, there's just 2 fires. It's the 3rd fire, right? Because he moved in to their house because of the fire. And then she was so afraid of him that she said nothing. Even when the police officer was there at the scene, she said nothing because she was so afraid of him, because her half brother that she invited to his home there, everything was fine according to her, sexually assaulted her twice, and yet she never told anyone. And he's abusive. And remember, like, you don't really, the way that she's talking about it, she's like, oh, this man, maybe it was her lover. No, it's her half brother. In what world do you ever hear a story of a woman who's married, who takes in a half brother to live with her, who is then sexually assaulting and abusing her? I mean, I've never heard of a victim. There's a syndrome for it that sometimes they try to go with, but this one is totally out there, and the board just lets her get away with it. Not to mention, the judge gave a mic drop at her sentencing hearing, saying how, and we'll read that, but the board does no homework, no due diligence. It completely ignored the mic drop victim impact statements. This woman is probably, in my opinion, I'm no PhD, I don't write the risk score algorithms, but just my opinion, just my speculating on a situation like this, is a classic sociopath. She did not reach for one tissue. She had her story rehearsed. She's trying to cry. She's shaking her hand. What she's done for all these years is her little acting skit. In her statement, she blames her half brother, who, I'll share with you, is dead. He hung himself immediately after he pled guilty. He never implicated her, by the way, when he was sentenced. They didn't catch her until a few months after he even killed himself. So remember her whole story about, I was so afraid of him, and once he was locked up, I went, no, none of that's true. As a matter of fact, he was dead. And the parole board holds up to nothing. Then she blames the victims as the ones who lit the homes on fire. And maybe what happened is they had colluded to do insurance scam, and maybe the victim had lit the fire and he wanted to get rid of the witnesses and killed them. I mean, that seems like maybe what happened. Is insane of a strategy as that is. I mean, who lights 2 homes on fire at the same day while you're still going through an insurance claim on your previous home fire, or after you just made a claim and got an award? The whole thing is insane, of course. And he picked these victims because both died. As you can see, they were estranged from their family, so no one even realized they were missing. Their bodies weren't even found until a crossbow hunter found them in the water. They had come up, but they thought they picked the perfect victims, people who wouldn't be missed. And then this parole board releases a dangerous psychopath, in my opinion, out, who completely flunks the parole hearing. Even during the hearing, and the parole board, they're like so afraid of it. The one question, the man at the, I'm not going to call him gentleman, the man at the right asked, well, what about the insurance claim that you did? What about that you were indicted for? And she's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, I'm sorry, I must have been confused. And then it comes out 2 minutes later, 3 minutes later, in other form of questioning, that, yeah, she filed an insurance claim on her home. She's like, oh, I signed it, and I shouldn't have signed it. You show up to your parole hearing and you lie every step of the way. You actually make the same statement that the judge admonished you for and the parole board grants? Are you kidding me? We'll go through the information. I'm sorry for my rant, but I just had to. A man murders 2 people with your gun, and you're the victim. Clown. You know, even in her final statement, they said, anything else you want to say? And she goes on to say something, nothing about the victims. And he has to hint her. He's like, and is there anything else? And she goes, oh, and I hope that the victims will forgive me. Unbelievable. So, this is what the judge said at her sentencing. At her sentencing, which really just happened pretty much recently. You know, her full-time date is 2038. Her sentencing right here happened May 26, 2017. And the judge says, quite honestly, when I began reading your version of the facts, I became somewhat confused because it read as a victim impact statement, said Judge Randy Hefner. Ma'am, you are not a victim in these crimes. You are a perpetrator of these crimes. You're the person that could have prevented these deaths. To cast yourself as a victim demonstrates a complete lack of remorse. And that is exactly what we saw here. And what did the parole board do? They awarded her with parole in the face of the victims. Meanwhile, she's accusing the victims of lighting the fire. She's accusing her half brother who's dead. All the people who's dead, actually, she's dragging them across the mud because we don't know what really happened. So for her to go there and accuse her, it's unreal. It's unreal. Loretta's 3 children, Natasha, Justin, and Jeremiah, each wrote a victim's impact statement. I could have had a blast for a long time, but no, and Natasha and Jennifer, you took him from me, took her from my heart. The charges were sentenced as follows: guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, which carries a minimum of sentence of 5 years and maximum of 10. Can you believe that Iowa only has a maximum of 10 for conspiracy? Seems quite low, no? Guilty of conspiracy to commit arson, carrying maximum sentence of 5. Guilty second degree arson, carrying maximum sentence up to 10 years. So isn't that interesting? Conspiracy to kill someone and conspiracy to commit second degree arson have the maximum sentence in their legislation. That makes a lot of sense. Again, we don't have PhDs. We shouldn't question the authority, right? We shouldn't question them. Let's not question their authority. Guilty of 2 counts of possession of firearm by a felon, a maximum sentence of 5 years for each count. And this is interesting because they didn't even bring that up. So it does seem that she was a felon the entire time, which she was. You're right. Richard has the information. We'll go over her record. She's been arrested so many times. I don't know if there are any felonies, though. She has an arrest in 97, an arrest in 98, an arrest in 2011, an arrest in 2014, an arrest in 2015, another arrest in 2015, but those were all for vehicle arrests. They were speeding, registration, safety belts. But now keep in mind, these are arrests, not tickets. She's getting handcuffed. She's getting booked. So we know when that happens that there's something much more going on. It's not like the cops just don't like her and are cuffing her because she doesn't have a registration. It's probably more like she's pulled over 3, 4, 5 times, and eventually they say enough's enough. That would be my guess. But it seems that she's not allowed to have the firearm. They don't question her about that, but that's what it seems that she's, anyways, received counts for. And then guilty of accessory after felony, carrying maximum sentence of up to 2 years. And all sentences were run consecutively, resulting in a total of 47 years in prison. Her full term date is 2038, yet she was paroled after 7 years. Can't make it up. Now, her co-defendant pled guilty to murder Friday, and he pled guilty in 2016. And now here's what it says. The charges stem from a December investigation into this discovery of a body, Loretta Lynn Dillinger, who was found in a rural Union County stock pond. So this was the pond that they found her body in. And remember, no one knew what was going on. No one knew anyone was missing. There was no police reports, no missing persons reports. They thought that they could get away with it. And a hunter found the body. So County Stock Pond, the charges from a December investigation into the discovery of body, Loretta Lynn, who was found in a rural Union County Stock Pond, and the body of a second victim, which identified as Jerry, as Michael Robinson Thayer, the property of Jerry's residence. Robinson shared children with Shelley Hartley and Jerry's niece. When a person pleads guilty, it's not merely a matter of saying, yes, I did it. The court has to be convinced of all the information is that they understand all aspects of the consequences, said the Union County Attorney Tim Kayan. The impact the justice system has on this family, can understand the system, blah, blah, blah. Plea. Now, keep in mind, he pled guilty and took his life without ever implicating his half-sister, which really sounds like someone who's remorseful and also really sounds like someone who was perpetrating against her all this time. Yeah, it seems like he really... who do you think was wearing the pants in that relationship? The man who never squealed on her? Yeah. Yeah, just take one, but the parole board, they don't care. During we don't have PA, sorry for how could us sheeple question the authority? How dare we? During 9:30 a.m. arraignment Friday, when normally Jerry would plead to pretrial conference, trial dates would be scheduled. Jury gave his plea and waived his rights to legal representation. So he did something which was incredibly unusual. He literally just pled like he wanted to get it over with. He did nothing. Both of these charges are murder in the first degree. Both carry mandatory sentence to life in prison without possibility of parole. Do you understand that? Yes, said Jerry. Lloyd continued to ask questions to provide factual basis. The jury understood his decision to plead guilty and waive counsel. During the questioning, Jerry answered yes to all the following questions. Lloyd asked if Jerry shot Loretta and the second victim with a firearm and believed the gunshot was caused their death, if acted willfully, deliberately, and without justification, and if he premeditated the deaths and undertook the acts with intent to kill both victims. Is what you're doing here today to be done freely? Yes. Jerry's plea was not completely unexpected, but the proceedings of the arraignment were unusual to the Union County. He never even took, as they said, he never even took legal representation. He never did any type of plea deal, bargaining, nothing. We have some idea that Jerry, may intend to do this Friday. You always anticipate unique developments. It was not completely unexpected, but this, to our knowledge, has not happened ever. Not in Union County. So they're like saying they want it both ways. We had some idea that this might happen, but it's never ever happened, not once. Jerry also waived his right to trial and against self-incrimination by giving guilty pleas and voluntary proceeding with sentencing. Jerry said to save the victims' families and mine any more grief. Again, I beg to ask, I wonder who wears the pants in their family that he would actually do this. You don't think she had some impact over him where she was so afraid that they would go to trial? Remember, she hasn't been implicated in this yet. Jury was sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences without parole immediately after the arraignment and a 10-minute recess. To me, consecutive sentences recognizes that there were 2 victims. Jury was transported to Iowa Medical Classification Center in Oakdale by sundown Friday, said Kenny, and Jury will be required to pay $15,000 in restitution in both the state, blah, blah, blah. What gives you the right to take someone's life? Did you have to kill my sister and her friend? Couldn't you have just let them leave? You'll not be able to hurt anybody on the streets again. I hope your victim will haunt you forever. That is he did take his life shortly after. So, according to the Union County Sheriff, Jerry confronted his ex-sister-in-law Loretta at this and the second victim, and during the confrontation, Jerry shot and killed both victims. During the arraignment, Jerry claimed he was not impaired by narcotics at the time of the incident. Loretta's body was discovered by a bow hunter in a stock pond in rural Thayer. Loretta's body was transported to the medical examiner office where she was identified by her tattoos. After executing several search warrants in December, their property, the skeletal remains of the second victim, was discovered. There's excavation equipment and a dog team were used to locate the remains. Kenny noted on a record that the remains of the second victim were substantially destroyed, and scientific analysis has not confirmed the DNA matches that of Robinson and Mayer may never be completed. The DNA matches that of Robinson and may never be completed. Jerry, who currently has a pending federal charge for acquiring ammunition as a felon, was charged the same weekend the second victim was discovered. DCI, Union County Sheriff, Union Secondary, blah, blah, blah. Then what we have is, and again, thank you, Richard. And I know many of you ask in the comment section, who is Richard? And I don't blame you for asking that if you're not joining our premieres, if you're not like actively involved in the community, because Richard is in all the live chats and he's there. You can talk to him. He's a real person, I promise. But he is, I've never met Richard in person. I've never spoken to him on the phone. I've never seen him. So he could be catfishing me. The truth is. I do plan on having him on one day. He has agreed to coming on. We just need to do it now. And it will be the first time that I hear his voice along with you. But he is, to give you some insight, when I first started the channel, he initially reached out to me and said, hey, Mandoo, I'll make you a logo. Do you want a logo? And I said, I mean, you know, I'm not really looking to pay for a logo or anything. He's like, oh, for free. So he made me a logo. Then he made me a banner. And, you know, I was skeptical at first, random person on the internet, but he's actually a really talented artist. He's done a lot of artwork. He's made a lot of emojis for us. His wolf emoji, he drew himself. And he's got a really interesting story. And then he just started to offer to do research. And there have been a lot of people over time that have offered to do research. And I said, sure. And, you know, it doesn't work out as well. But then Richard came in and he is, it's his passion work. He does this for passion. He doesn't make any money. This is his, like, part of his life goal to help bring awareness. He's by far retired. He's, really interesting man. I think I'll wait for him to tell you his story, his life experiences. He's a veteran, all that, you know, incredible stuff. But the research, he doesn't just do research. We have spreadsheets. We have dozens of spreadsheets. We have thousands of rows of information. The what he does is what allows me to really pump out the number of premieres that I do, because this isn't my full-time job, but he makes it very easy to do that. And I also go to him for advice and feedback and information, all that stuff. So that's a quick overview of who Richard is. But no, I mean, one day we'll get to meet him, including myself, on the show. So now we fast forward to right after he takes his plea deal on January 22nd, 2016. Then very quickly, February 11th, 2016, so a month later, he's found unalive in his cell. He took his life. He was found from a bed sheet tied to the bed in his cell in Iowa Medical Classification Center. So, you know, he's held in the medical center, and I don't know if that was, you know, that's interesting. They said they took him there, and that was for what reason, who knows? But in the medical center, which you would assume that they'd be watching for this type of thing, because I heard that's what they typically do. They put you in a certain kind of, they want to make sure you don't do this. But yet he was still able to do it. His death comes about 2 months after the body of his ex-sister-in-law was discovered by hunters in the rural county pond. The courtroom documents show that he confronted and killed them. Robinson skeletal remains. So it happened that quickly. There were 900 prisoners being held in that facility. And it just, it just shows that the COs are not, or they're just not doing enough to prevent it. But anyways, he ended it on February 11, 2016. And it wasn't until March 23rd of 2016 that new information was released in the bizarre death investigation case that Jennifer was charged. Okay? So her story, again, about being so afraid of him and not until he was in prison. No. She waited a full month. She didn't even wait, but it was a full month till after he was dead. She had all the opportunity in the world. And of course, we don't need to really emphasize on this. We know that what she was saying was full of it. We know it was a lie. But if you needed any proof, authorities said DCI agents determined that Hartley acted with Jerry to kill Loretta. Hartley was part of the plan to have Loretta set fire to 2 residences, one in Greenfield and one in the authorities. So that was the plan. Okay. Hartley provided the pistol to Jerry to kill Loretta so she wouldn't disclose any information about the fires. What a dumb plan. What a dumb plan. Let's pay her to light fires to 2 of our homes and then kill her. I mean, 1 home. You could do 1 home, but 2? What? Hartley provided a pistol to Jerry to kill Loretta so she wouldn't disclose information about the fires. Authorities said Hartley knowingly helped conceal Loretta's death. Jerry Dillinger pleaded guilty to murdering Dillinger, 1 other man, in a short time later and killed himself. So there you go. There you go. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. And now with all this information that we just shared, can you believe that this parole board grants, after the victims come on and spill the hearts out, after she comes on and lies, lie after lie after lie after lie, takes zero accountability, shows every sign of my opinion, psychopathy, narcissism, I don't know, every dangerous type of thing. Just my opinion. I'm not diagnosing anyone. I'm not a doctor. I'm only speculating in a situation like this. And the parole board grants. They said she had a good interview. They respect her, what she's accomplished in prison. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on every one of you. And this has become a theme with these Iowa parole hearings. And this is part of why we do this. We expose the insanity of our legal system. We expose those who are, in my opinion, complete dereliction of what they should be doing. And I believe if the citizens of Iowa knew what was happening, they would be infuriated. They would demand change. And this is the first step to making that happen. Thank you again, Richard, for the information. And with that, I'll let you go.